Hello everyone, it is the Almighty Jeff, and this is episode 23 of The Last of Us Part 2. I am very happy to say that this is the episode in which I finally managed to complete the daily run of the No Return game mode on Grounded. Now, if I haven't already talked about what that is, it is basically a completely randomised run, although it is available to everybody on the same day and it resets every 24 hours. So this particular instance, I was playing as Jesse, and this is the route that I took with the boss that I had, which would have been the route on the 24th of June 2025. So it's not really going to help much as a walkthrough, because the circumstances are going to be vastly different to whatever I got. This is just me showing you the run that I did in order to get those 2 trophies, which is May Your Survival Be Long, which is just to complete a daily run, and May Your Death Be Swift, which is to complete it on Grounded. Now, I could have just as easily done a normal daily run on Very Light and managed to get one of the trophies and save myself the pain of that, but I figured I'm going to keep on doing it until I get both trophies anyway, so I might as well just keep going at it at Grounded. Yeah, this was difficult. This was a horrible undertaking, is what I'm going to say it was. This is one of my least favourite things of trying to do for the sake of trophies, because obviously I played on Grounded. It's about as difficult as it can be, and you only get one chance a day at doing this. If you die and your run ends, you've got to wait till the next day in order to try it again, which I do not like in games. So to explain what is going on here, I know I'm just talking about what it is I've done. I have made things as easy for me as possible with this because A, it is very difficult, and B, it's only once a day kind of thing. I suppose if it was a Grounded run, but it wasn't necessarily restricted to one a day, possibly I might have considered trying it without any of the benefits, but I'm not in this for the challenge. I'm in this for the trophies, really, and the completions, and I am not that good at the game in order to be able to get through this without any benefits. So you're probably looking at the colour scheme like, what the hell are you doing? This is in the accessibility settings, and it's one of the settings you can do. It's meant to help people that have like difficulties with vision and everything like that. I don't care that I'm exploiting that. I wanted to make things as easy as possible because it's difficult enough without all of the benefits. All it basically helped me do with this is that it made the items I can pick up stand out more, and also the vast majority of the enemies glow up in red. Obviously you can see these ones don't. That's because they are the sort of the sneaky infected, the ones that sort of hide, so they don't show up in red for some reason, but the rest of them do. And it just means that if you're in a situation where you're in like a darker room and you're trying to hyper focus on getting upgrades and parts and stuff like that, then you aren't caught off guard by someone that you weren't paying attention to, because they stand out and they look red. So yeah, so the route you get, obviously you get the standard options after this particular wave as to which route you want to go, but those are the same for everybody. So what I would suggest is, if at all possible, avoid infected encounters, because even the other abilities which I've got, which you may have heard when I was lying in prone, there was like a sort of like a sound effect. It basically meant that I was invisible, as you can hear now, and you can also see in the bottom right there's a little icon where the icon is sort of got lines through it. It means that enemies aren't able to see you. With the infected, this can be a little bit iffy. I found with human enemies it tends to work pretty well, with the exception of the boss level, in which I don't think it works, as you will see later on. Every other encounter you are invisible unless they walk into you, or unless you aim your gun at them and they can see you aiming your gun at them. That tends to also break the illusion. And obviously if you are in active combat, for example, you can't just lie prone and they'll all be wondering where you are. If you're in the middle of a firefight, they will see you. But if you're out of vision, if you've actually managed to escape from your enemies and then go in prone, they shouldn't be able to find you, but they will sort of tend to hover around where you actually are. But I find that works a lot more with regular enemies than infected enemies. Infected tend to sort of walk into you, and it's kind of BS. I've had many encounters where I've been doing really well, and then I've been on, for example, the hunted ones, which is usually the easiest ones to do if you've got the prone ability, because you can just hide in a corner and then just wait for the timer to run out. where an infected has walked into me and has immediately detected me, and usually that's the end of the run. But yeah, what I would suggest is, especially on these assault ones, because there's not a timer on, I would try my best to scour the map for supplies and try and make what you can this first time around. So obviously try and stock up on medkits, as Jesse has. Each character has their own little set. I think they can all make medkits from the start, but some of them can make shivs, some of them can make trap bombs or trap mines or anything like that. But you see this one is what ran into me. So that was a bit of BS. But typically, what a good strategy also is to do on assault is to wipe out all the enemies except one. This time I didn't end up doing that, but that's because I pretty much picked up everything I can pick up anyway, so it wasn't too bad. But if you're at the start, it's best to sort of leave some wiggle room for you to pick up as many supplies throughout the map as you can. And also making the dead drops. The dead drops can be very useful. Obviously, it's a bit random as to what you get, but sometimes you can get a fully upgraded weapon, which is fantastic, and the more weapons you have, the better, because it means that as you get later on and you get to the boss, you're gonna, in pretty much every scenario, want as much as you can possibly have, because obviously there's usually multiple enemies that you have to contend with, and you can blow through a lot of ammo. And I think in this particular instance I was quite glad that I had as many weapons as I did, as you will see when we do get to the boss battle up towards the end. I didn't end up using all of it. I still had a decent amount of wiggle room, but I certainly was grateful for having all the weapons that I could. And I tend to find, as you will see, I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, I had a better chance with the human final encounter of human boss, which in this case I had the Rattler King. I think was it the Rattler King, or basically the one where you're in the camp where you've got the rattlers. It's the same area where the final section of the main story was. That was probably one of the better ones, although the closest attempt before this that I got to the end was also, I had the bloater in the garage with Joel. That was annoying because I felt like that was my run. I had a really good run up to that point, and I wasn't feeling confident at all that I was going to get through that boss battle, but I was doing so well. I had the bloater down to his last little snippet of health, and I'd cleared out pretty much everyone that was chasing after me, and then I completely forgot that the second wave of infected spawns in, and a clicker jumped me from behind and killed me, and I was so devastated then. I really did not like doing this game mode, but this just happened to be a run. So as you can see, the dead drop for that one, I managed to get a shotgun. But yeah, so that first run, obviously, there's nothing you can do about whatever first level they give you. Just go in ahead and do it. Assault ones tend to be favourable because you have more time to go around and pick up supplies. But infected, I tend to try and avoid like the plague in whatever encounter they are, because they tend to be, you know, a little bit BS. So Jesse has the ability to have infinite respawns of the stock thing, whereas of the trading post. Obviously, most characters only get the 2 runs. But yeah, we didn't get the hunting pistol there, but don't worry, I end up picking it up as a dead drop reward later on. So I try and favour getting weapons if they've got it available, holsters or diagrams, because they could be good. Because if you get a good run with supplies and have as many upgrades as you can, that's more weapons that you can craft on the spot. Because you can't always rely on ammo in this game mode. But usually with most round-based ones, at the very least, you will be given, as you can see, that's the. I was just checking what the enemy was. I was like, okay, maybe we could do this. If I get there, I'm in with a good chance. But I did ultimately, you obviously with most things you can look ahead unless it's a randomised one to see what they do. And I didn't think either of these routes looked particularly awful. Obviously, I think the main one you'd want to avoid is Holdout. Holdout would be awful on grounded. Thankfully, I never ended up having that as an issue. But I just wanted to avoid as many infected encounters as possible. So I ultimately went with Hunted. Because if you do a Hunted with human enemies, it's a lot easier to do than with infected, as I've previously stated. Now, you also don't want to get too cocky. This time I did get pretty cocky, because I was basically running around trying to pick up as many supplies as I could, and I did end up getting into an altercation, as you will see. So this is also an example to show that you don't have to be completely perfect at this game mode to do it. It certainly helps, Also, doesn't help at all when your enemy, when your character, I don't know why I keep saying enemy, when your character decides to climb over surfaces rather than sort of scoot next to it. That's happened a couple of times in this run, where I just attempted to sort of hide along something and he vaulted over it. But yeah, obviously the earlier haunted rounds, less enemies will spawn in, but yeah, as the haunted mods go on, more of them will occupy the arena at one time. But I was just basically trying to scoot around and pick up as many supplies as I could so I could craft as much as I could, and then obviously having this game mode on,
I see them.
should make enemies stand out. Obviously that's that wasn't amazing. I got into a bit of trouble there. But also one of the accessibility options that I've got on is basically it makes the enemies miss more of the shots. Like their aim isn't quite as good. It also means that they don't flank you or anything like that. There's plenty of options you can explore in combat accessibilities. Also, one that you would have seen is going into slow-mo when you're aiming and your weapon not swaying as well. Those are all beneficial things. And yeah, obviously, if you can get through this game mode without doing that, all the more power to you. And if you're going for the top of the leaderboard and you're not using any of the perks, you know, I absolutely congratulate you. That's never going to happen for me. I'm not that type of gamer. I do not have the patience for it, personally. I was literally just in it for the trophies. And, you know, if the options are available to me to make it easier... See, this got a bit hairy. I was a bit worried by this point. I was like, oh dear. And, yeah. Ideally, I would have managed to open that supply crate and get whatever was inside it, but I didn't get there in time. But as long as you survive, you'll live to fight another day. But yeah, there's plenty of combat options and things you can activate just to make life a bit easier. Also, in grounded mode, you're not typically allowed to use your listen ability to obviously detect where enemies are, but you can manually turn that back on through the options. So yeah, I was basically doing everything I could to make it as simple as possible because I already had enough things against me in this game mode without having to worry about, you know, the game screwing me over. Yeah, picking up this Unstoppable perk was really good because it meant that the ultimate upgrade, which definitely saved my ass in the last round, was to have extra health. I'm almost certain if I didn't have that perk in the boss battle especially, I would have died. So, and that would have been devastating because it was a really good run before that. But yeah, your health does not respawn in the back in the safe room, so make sure that you heal up if you do. I remember when I was doing through the game mode on my own, when I was going through the challenges as the last couple of episodes were, I didn't know that. So there were a few times that I went in and, you know, suddenly my health was very low. But on Grounded, you cannot keep track of that. There is no tracker for your health or your ammo. You've got to keep an eye on that on yourself. You don't even get like any sort of indicator on screen about how damaged you are. But yeah, so just you've just got to make sure that if you won't use a health kit if you don't need to. It'll just default back to your weapon. So that's always a good indicator as to whether you've got damage or not. But then also, if you're in the arenas, usually there's a lot of food supplies around, so you can top your health up without having to waste a med kit, really. And we did see when I was back in the shop there that there was a crossbow available, but I opted not to take it because I figured that with the route that I was planning on taking, there wouldn't be much stealth that I would require. Ultimately, I did end up using it later on because I got the upgraded version of the crossbow as a dead drop. Which is also a gamble you can take, I suppose. You can always say that you don't want to buy a certain weapon from the trading route because you can unlock it for free from a dead drop, and usually as well there's a good chance of it dropping it as a fully upgraded version of that weapon. But yeah, it's all risk. It is all risk, but yeah. Anywho, we're going into another assault now. This one is against human enemies, but obviously as we're getting later on, there are more enemies per round. And this one I believe I was on for quite some time. You've got increased enemy health, increased enemy speed, which is a bit of a drawback. But if you shoot an enemy in the head, no matter how tough they are, that will always kill them, which is what I opted to do. Now, some of these levels they get particularly hard because it's hard to keep stealthy if there is a dog, because dogs can sniff you out, and obviously you're going to want to target them straight away, but then it's obviously going to put you in trouble. So, as you will see, what I do end up doing is killing the dog, then just sort of clearing a path for me, and then hiding again, which then give me opportunity to scour around for supplies. I just got myself into a comfortable position. I wasn't actually aware, I think, at this point that there was a dog, and then I saw it coming towards me, and I was like, oh, bollocks. It's, yeah, dogs are a bit annoying because they'll be able to sniff you out and they'll obviously come straight up to you, and then if an enemy interacts with you, even if you're in prone and invisible, that will put you on the radar and they'll all be able to see you. And dogs also can just sort of jump you, whereas you can have the ability to make it more difficult for enemies to shoot at you. Dogs don't have that ability. They will not miss your bites. There you go. So I saw it coming, I was like, oh, bollocks, 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 bollocks. I think I tried to craft a silencer, but I ran out of... I didn't have enough supplies to do so. So I saw these two come in. From behind a bit of cover. But yeah, you can tell they're taking... I was aiming for the head, but I did end up hitting them in the body. And obviously took a fair few shots. So I decided to clear out 4 of the enemies and just leave 1 of them on their own. And then use that opportunity to just scour around. Yeah, obviously the ideal scenario is that you'd stay in stealth and take them out with stealthy melee kills, because then that preserves ammo, and obviously the more ammo the better, but sometimes you also want to not get too hyper-focused on preserving ammo, because there are times that you will need it, and then if you're going to be like, okay, I can get these melee kills, you can quite quickly find yourself overwhelmed. So it is just better to use stealth when you can, but not be afraid to use ammo and weaponry when you need to, because whilst ammo is scarce, it's not completely kept from you. Even on this grounded mode run, you'll typically find, especially in these assault rounds, every time you finish a round, it'll drop a supply crate, and that will typically have a relatively decent amount of ammo, and also enemies will drop them. Not all the time, but not infrequently, put it that way. So, but typically it also sort of tries to give you ammo for the latest weapon you got. So obviously, as you might have seen before with the dead drop, I got a shotgun. Usually in the supply crates I end up picking shotgun ammo, which I wasn't really using my shotgun much because I wanted to save as much ammo for that as for the later stages and ultimately for the boss battle. But, and then just try to favour using my pistol when I could. But yeah, it still does give you pistol ammo when you need it. You're never completely without. But then there's also a lot of weapons that you can pick up ammo at the trading post back in the safe house, which is something that I preferred. But yeah, looking ahead to what boss you're going to face is also beneficial to seeing what you should be focusing on, because infected tend to do better again with manual weapons like your trap mines and such. But then when you're dealing with human enemies, I tend to favour actual weaponry. So that's what I ultimately ended up doing, as you'll see, where I focus my attention in the trade shop, is keeping my ammo supply maxed. But yeah, you can probably make it even easier for yourself if you take even longer with all these waves and just try and use everything and find as many supplies as you can and go really slowly and just do the stealth takedowns and stuff like that. But, you know, I was also aware that I was recording, so I didn't want to make it like a 2-hour long run going as slowly as possible. And also, I'm quite impatient, much to my, you know, drawback, because in a game mode like this it is very beneficial to be patient and take your time with it. I'm not that. I think my best example on YouTube of my lack of patience is probably Alien Isolation. I think I probably got myself in more trouble than necessary with that one because I was keen on keeping things moving and rushing through the levels and everything like that. But see, this is another example of Jesse climbing the table rather than going around it, which is what I wanted. But I figured I'd crafted everything I could really at the moment. There's probably some odd supplies I could have picked up, but I decided to just move on with the next wave at this point and hopefully get my supply crate to pop up. So, but with this one there was no use wasting a bullet. So, but also it will be a quick kill if it is your final enemy. And also, I tried to keep hold of my shivs as well. I did have shivs, so I could have taken them out very quickly. But if there's no one around, just do a slightly slower takedown, but without using any supplies. That's all there is to be said about it. Yeah, we got another 2 waves, and I think I went through a lot quicker with these 2 because I'd sort of already gone round and picked up most of the supplies. I was pretty confident with just sort of more quickly taking it out this time, but I think another dog spawned in this time, but there wasn't one in the 3rd wave, so if there's a dog about, there's only so long you're going to have that you are going to be able to just stay away from trouble, because they will sniff you out. But yeah, I just decided to... Yeah, so as you can see, even though I was in prone, if you are aiming at an enemy, they will be able to see you. Well, almost. You will actually see in the next one, I think it's the next one, or the one after it, I did a haunted game mode, where I could have very easily screwed myself over. But yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. There was 2 moments in this run that I really sort of crap myself thinking like this is it.
Start a sweep, people.
But you'll see that in a moment. I'll talk about that when it comes up. But yeah, obviously I would take the silencer off if I was already in trouble, because there would be no point for me to have it. I wasn't actually intending to do that. That was a moment because what I wanted to do was hold the listen mode and press square, because if you're in listen mode and then you press square, it will mark all the enemies, and if you press circle, it will mark where all the items that can be picked up are. And specifically, it shows what items can be picked up at the moment. If it's something for a supply that you're already full of, it won't take it. But yeah, I was basically aiming to do a scan of the area to make sure there were no enemies nearby that would detect me if I give them a stealth takedown, but what it instead decided to do was to melee attack. But obviously, as you can see, it wasn't the end of the world that happened. But yeah, it's just something to be aware of. The game can sort of screw you over sometimes. So you've just got to do what you can. As you can see, yeah, got some ammo back in that one. It wasn't a biggie. And I just decided in this instance to... I think I was fairly comfortable saying that I got everything that I needed to from this level, so... just figured I would gun everybody down. And get the mission over with. I think that's what I did anyway. I mean, it did happen yesterday, but I was in sort of like a hyper-focused mindset. Oh, she's jumping down. That, it all kind of became a bit of a blur. Yeah, obviously, if you can have less people all surrounding you, gives you better options. Yeah, just try and keep on top of your ammo. Hope that the enemy that you just took down with the pistol ammo has ammo on top of them. Just, just be cautious. See that one. Got lucky with that one. As you can see, they had shotgun ammo, but I was already fully stocked at this point, and I was like, I'm not using the ammo. I'm going to stick to my pistol. I want all my heavier weaponry for the last round, for the having a go at it the safest way I possibly can, which was beneficial because I ended up using, I think, all my shotgun ammo in that last round. Things got quite hairy, as you will see, and I was very grateful to have that stronger weaponry because I don't think a pistol would have done it. Yeah, just got the last couple of fools now. Separate enough from each other that I think I did melee kills for both of them. There's no need to use pistol ammo if that's not strictly necessary. Do a little sneaky on this dude. The first few attempts that I attempted the no return mode, I was recording it like I'm just like a regular episode, you know, with my face cam and everything like that, and then it was not going too well, and then I just figured, most of the time, I went into the mindset like, I'm going to try my best, but it's probably not going to succeed, which is not the greatest way to go into that kind of game mode. Truth be told, you should always try and go in with the expectation you're going to win, because then that'll put you in a better mindset. But, yeah. But then it also helped that I can sort of more concentrate on what it is that I'm doing rather than commentating, really. I'm much better at it when I can do it in post, because then I don't have to worry about what's going on or everything like that. And then I'm more likely to rush things as well if I'm doing it on camera, because I'm aware that I'm on the clock. Whereas this one, I can be like, if things got too slow, I can always speed things up, or you know, if it's an hour and a half, it's an hour and a half. But when you're in the moment, you can fully concentrate on doing what you can. So yeah, I don't think I think I would have struggled doing this with the camera and talking to you guys at the same time, or it probably would have been boring because I probably would have gone silent as I was concentrating. But yeah, being able to talk about it in post means that I can sort of like, okay, this is what I did, this is how I did it.
Whoa.
Because it's useless me telling you doing that and then it being unsuccessful, you know what I mean? It's probably like, you should focus on doing this, and then I die, and then I'm like, well, that's a lot of bullshit, isn't it? But yeah, not too bad. But the next two waves are both hunted rounds, and they were both against human enemies, so I was like, okay, if I can keep on top of my supplies now and feel like I'm comfortable enough with what I've got at the moment, it means I can sort of take it more careful in the next two rounds, as you'll see. But yeah, especially if you've got a hunted game mode with the infected, I would avoid it like the plague, personally. Obviously, you may feel differently, and you might feel more confident in doing that, but yeah, the infected are horrible to deal with, even with the ability to stay hidden. I suppose if you're doing it with the normal game mode, it's going to be that much more difficult. But yeah, there's the increased health. That was my saviour, I think. Obviously, I've done well enough now to get through most encounters without taking any damage. I think the only one I did was that first hunted one at the cabins. But as you can see, there's the upgraded crossbow. I was umming and ahhing, and I'm like, do I take it? And then I think ultimately I was like, yeah, okay. It'll be beneficial to have. And then stock up on incendiaries, which also was another one that I think was very beneficial that I ended up using in the final game mode. But yeah, I figured it's pretty much, I don't really need to focus on stability with these because I've got that setting activated where the gun doesn't sway, so I sort of avoided that. Recoil was a bit different because obviously it means that your pistol moves, like your accuracy changes after you've shot. But I focused on mostly on fire rate and magazine size, because that would mean that if I did get myself into a situation, I wasn't having to worry as much about ammo and having to reload and everything like that. But yeah, I think at this point I was on an hour and I'm like, do I go for hunted or do I go for assaults? And then I was like, okay, they're both human encounters. I'm going to risk it and go hunted. I don't know what I would consider to be easier, whether it would be the assault or the hunted. I think it can sort of depend. Certainly, as I've said, hunted against infected, definitely at the bottom of the list for me, as well as holdouts, which I didn't encounter in any of my runs. I mean, there was the option to go down that route, but I just avoided it. It never came up to me that I had to do it. Captures could be quite good as well. I didn't get any in this run, but because again, it's like an assault, but with one wave, and with the invisible while prone can mean that you can get quite close to the safe house with everything like that. This one's got trap mines, which would worry me because I'm like, I was like, okay, this is how it's going to end, isn't it? I'm going to walk into one of the bloody trap mines, but tripwise, sorry, but I didn't. But yeah, obviously there was a couple of supplies here, but I just figured I'm just going to do what I can, and then I'm not going to run around, and because most of the time that if I'd end up failing these, I'd fail it around the third one, so I was already doing better than I would typically. I decided to speed this bit up because I did basically stay here, but you can see they literally come right up next to you. It's like, even though you have this invisible wall prone situation, I think they still sort of have a general knowledge as to where you are, because they will come right up next to you, and this will definitely get proven in the second hunted, which you'll see in a moment. Well, yeah, just try and avoid them. Obviously, that's not always going to be possible. Sometimes they'll just walk right into you. But yeah, that time I did. There was enough wiggle room that they didn't walk right into me. And also, thankfully, it seems to work even on your partner, because he did aim right at Dina there and didn't detect us. So, which is a bit different from the story mode, because there were times that I wasn't in view, but they'd find it was usually Dina. Dina was usually the partner and all this stuff, and it would sort of ruin everything. But that didn't seem to work on this one, which I'm thankful for. So we'll just go through this. I think at this point I was pretty happy with what I had. Craft more incendiary shells was something I was like, ooh, that could be good. Incendiary shells are always good. Particularly against infected, I would find, but it's the same against all enemies really, because the bosses always have a little bit more health than your average Joe. Upgrade semi-auto rifle. I was like, yes, thank you, I will take that. The other thing is with the even though actually, now that I think about it, I never ended up using the rifle. But it was a good backup. I would have been happy to have had it there and feel more confident. The more ammo, the better. But at this point, I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on stocking up on weaponry, because I was like, okay, the next one is a hunted round. So I was like, I'm going to try my best and do exactly what I did there, which is just to grab what supplies I can in like the first 20 seconds and then just hide until the timer runs out. Which isn't going to do well in terms of giving you points if you want to top the leaderboard. But as I said, I was not in it for the leaderboard, I was in it to get the bloody trophies. So I just figured, at the trading route now, I would use all my coins just to buy ammo and keep myself stocked up, because that was my priority at this point. But yeah, at this point I was feeling fairly confident. As like, if I can get to it, I feel like I've got enough supplies to see me through. But yeah, that was it. It was just surviving till that point, and then obviously surviving the final round, which was scaring me. I remember I could feel my heartbeat getting gradually faster and faster. I was getting through these waves. I'm like, okay, this could be it. This could be it. And then certainly by the time I was in that final round, I was doing breathing exercises as I was going through. I was like, okay. And then this is the first moment and this point where I did genuinely sort of, crap myself a little bit. But then I did get to drop this dead drop. And I was like, oh, I can afford that. And I think in my head it was worth the risk, even though I think what ultimately you'll see the reward wasn't particularly worth it. But I feel like if you can supply a dead drop, I would do it in general. But yeah, so this is the point where things get spooky. So I sped up a little bit again. This guy, as you will see, he gets right up close and personal, and there was a moment there I was like, okay, like, I feel like he's gonna see me, and I aimed right at him, but thankfully he didn't notice me. But he literally does this loop about 3 times and goes to that exact same spot. Every time it's like, and I was like, okay, alright, he seems to not be bothering with me. But yeah, that moment was my first sort of like, oh crap, because I figured at this point, if I got seen, it was game over. But yeah, thankfully he didn't, and he didn't see me aiming despite the fact I was right next to him, so that was a stroke of luck. That could have very easily ended the run otherwise. But yeah, he just looked in front of me and wasn't quite where I was stood. So at this point I'm like, alright, okay, here we go. We're in for a shot. Grab myself, but yeah, I think was it a trap mine recipe? Yeah. Which I didn't end up using in this final one. So could have kept the supplies, but ultimately it was, it's a gamble, and in other scenarios it could have been beneficial, but I didn't particularly need it. So at this point, you're not going to be running around picking up supplies in the boss arena. In some scenarios you might end up doing that, like bigger arenas. That's certainly a possibility, but I figured with this one, it's like, okay, what I craft here is what I'm going in with, and that's probably what I'm going to stick with. Yeah, at this point, I was between 2 options I wasn't particularly going to end up using, but I was like, well, I might as well do my supplies or something. And yeah, just again, like this one, making sure everything is stocked. As many things as possible, really. Yeah, military ammo. Even though it would cost a lot of points for one bullet, I was like, I'm not going to spend it on anything else. So, worth doing. And then, again, stock it up with the semi-auto rifle, because they're quite stingy when it comes to the semi-auto rifle. But, again, as I said, I ultimately didn't end up using it, but it would have been a good backup in case I would have had to. Things went a bit more hairy. I could have very easily have ended up having to use that, but I didn't. And then, obviously, you might as well just upgrade what you can at this point, because you're never going to come back again. So, yeah. I could have made maybe more strategic choices as to what I wanted to upgrade, but at this point it's no balls, go in, do what you can. Yeah, I got the Rattler Captain. Which wasn't the most ideal. I feel like the easiest boss that you could probably deal with would be the Seraphite leaders. Because obviously you do have two bosses to deal with, but they're all human enemies in this one, whereas this one, I think, that ultimately ended up being two dogs. I thought there was just the one, which comes to the second moment where I was, I end up crapping myself a little bit in this run. But, yeah, I've got my silencer on, which is a bit useless because ultimately I ended up getting found pretty quickly. But yeah, yeah. At that point, I realised now in hindsight that that was the silencer option coming off the gun. At that exact moment, I thought someone had thrown something at me. Oh, no, there must be three dogs. Because this was the point that I thought, okay, I've dealt with the dog enemies, I can just sort of focus on the humans who don't have the greatest accuracy thanks to the perk that I've got. But I did obviously take damage there, so I was like, I'll hide, I'll heal myself, because it's always best to have the best health you can. Obviously, you don't want to get caught into getting a scrap. Yeah. But as you can see, even though I'm in prone, I'm not invisible at this point. So, and that's the boss there. I wasn't quite sure that was the boss at first, so I decided just to swap over to my shotgun with my incendiaries, and this ultimately ended up taking down the boss. So yeah, that's a weight off, but then you've still got the rest of the other stun enemies. And then was the dog, and as you can see at this point, yeah, this was it. It was like, oh my god, 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 oh my god. I was like, at this point I was panicking. But thankfully, I still had enough health just to take that other bullet though. Could have very easily been the end of the run, and I reckon one more... Okay, actually no, never mind. I was going to say I reckon one more hit would have killed me. Obviously, I got shot there. At this point, I must have been on the brink. I think I got very lucky there. But at this point, I was like, okay, I've killed a lot of people. I reckon I must be down to the last handful. So I was like, okay, just breathe. Take your time. And just try and aim for headshots. But I was like, I've still got a decent amount of ammo. That shouldn't be a situation that should end the run for me, running out of ammo. So, and of course I'd saved my hunter pistol, which is obviously by far the best one, does the most damage. And then I was like, okay, regulate, don't panic, take your time. I was like, okay, doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter, take your time. Obviously, I didn't know this at the time, but I was assuming these are the last two enemies. They were. And then, just you. I'm like, okay. Run complete. You will never know how far my heart jumped when I saw them come up on the screen. I was like, yes! I was practically dancing in my room when I saw those trophies come up. I was elated. Right, that is it, guys. That is the end of the episode, the end of the run. You can see my ultimate position on the leaderboard was... what was it? 172nd. Not too many problems with that. Wasn't going to top the leaderboard at any rate, but yeah, I was happy enough with that. But yeah, that is the end of that run. We finally got those two trophies. We are done with no return. I never have to touch that game mode again. I'm very happy to say. All we have now is episode 24, which will be me getting the platinum trophy by finishing off all of the upgrades for the weapons and general, supplement upgrades for Ebby and Ali. Ebbie and Abby, for God's sake, Ellie and Abby, and then that will ultimately give me the Platinum Trophy, and then the other 2 trophies, which is to complete a run on Permadeath, which you can adjust your settings. It doesn't have to be Permadeath and it ends the complete run. I ended up setting it to every chapter, so if I died I'd have to restart the chapter, but not necessarily the whole game. You can also select that to act if you want to do so, you know, like Seattle Day 1, Seattle Day 2. But yeah, I've already done that, by the way. I've finished my first run of the game, did the permadeath run, and I have the platinum to the game. I finished all the upgrades. I've just got to run through the game one more time on Grounded, and then I will ultimately have 100% of the trophies, and that will comprise episode 24. I don't know if we'll get that next week. Depends how long it takes me to get through the Grounded game mode. But yeah, that is the one thing stopping me from completing this game now. So that will be the final episode. I was going to do episode 23 and 24 back to back. Well, technically the original plan was I was going to do all of this in episode 22, but then I realised how difficult that would be, so I ultimately split it up into the following episodes as well. But yeah, episode 23 is done. We've done the daily run. No return gameplay. Thank God for that. Yeah, episode 24 will just me going through the final trophies and then also all the bonuses as well. So the remaining character skins and gameplay modifiers, buying everything but the points basically. So yeah, hope you're looking forward to that, and then we can finally put The Last of Us Part 2 behind us. Before I wrap up, let me take a second to thank my amazing patrons. My £5 patron is Ron Hyler, thanks to his channel as well as my other £3 patrons in the description down below, and don't forget to credit to my £1 patrons. Thank you so much everyone, it's truly appreciated and it goes a long way to have the channel, so I do thank you a lot for that. And if you're a good patron, you can follow in the description down below. If you don't do that, because at the end of the day, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you did, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in episode 24, the finale of The Last of Us Part 2. Bye guys.